Feliz Días de los Muertos. On this occasion we remember those who have died. And for those of us in service to the gay community, we remember those who have died of AIDS. I will remember my friend Kevin Sanborn. We were at college together. And when I was a sophomore in college, I had come very far out of the closet. I was angry at Boy George for stealing my act when he appeared on the scene. Choir robes played a prominent part in my wardrobe. And while I was the BFOC, the big fag on campus, Kevin, a preppy white boy with chiseled cheekbones and chin, from preppy New Hampshire, conservative New Hampshire, stalwart and white New Hampshire, had come to the university, and for some reason he had taken a shining to me. And he kept following me around and hanging out with me. And I thought, well, aren't I lucky this attractive young gay man is following me around? But then, as soon as I started to flirt, Kevin let me know that no, he was straight. And I thought, well, if a pretty straight boy wants to follow me around and be my friend, that's okay with me. And Kevin was a very dear, sweet friend. Always kind, always a gentleman, but mostly quiet, with his little button-down shirts and his grey cardigan sweater, and his preppy little lobster bisque red shorts. He never really said all that much. He just listened to me. Well, I am quite a show sometimes, and it's hard to get a word in edgewise. At the end of the year, I had already decided and applied to and been accepted and made plans to go to art school in Florence, Italy. Che mi manca l'Italia. La più bella città nel tutta Italia è Firenze, penso io. So I was packing up my room, and Kevin, as usual, was hovering. And as I took apart my makeup area, packing up all my little Grace Jones colors and jewelry that I had cadged from all the thrift stores around the small town in Connecticut, where we went to school, a thought struck me as I took down a double-strand 3-foot length of plastic see-through orange diamond-shaped beads. This necklace I'd found in the local thrift store that was brighter than bright, like little plastic orange stars strung together. And it just hit me. And I turned around to Kevin, and I held it out to him, and I said, "While I'm gone in Italy, I need you to wear this all year. Don't take it off. They're magic. They are magic beads, and they will do things for you while I'm gone." And he put it around his neck, and he said, "Okay, I will." And then I left. I had a good summer, filmed a movie, portion of which, when I was falling down some stairs, made it onto Nickelodeon in between commercials. And I went to Italy, where I had one of the best years of my life, and lost my virginity. Good riddance. And then I came back to school for my senior year. I had been away a whole year. So much had happened. A new poet had arrived on campus and attracted everyone's hearts and minds. A brilliantly gay man, who continues to be a poet to this day, and lauded and printed in the New Yorker. New flings, new flames. And one of the first people I met when I was back on campus, who came running up to me across the great wide preppy lawn of the college in New England, was Kevin, dressed in a much more relaxed t-shirt and shorts sort of way. And he came running, and he called my name, and he called my name. And I was delighted to see him, and I marveled at his sort of giggly new openness. Where was this retiring young man I had known from New Hampshire? And he said, I have to tell you, the beads worked. He said to me that he had worn the orange beads all year, and that they had helped him come to terms with his homosexuality and his gay identity. And not only had he come out of the closet, he had become a counselor to other gay students, and was, this year, his junior year, my senior year, an RA, a residential advisor on a hall, and acknowledged by the administration as a gay one. He was the BFOC, the big fag on campus. Well, I have to say, it was a lovely lesson for me senior year, learning how to share the title. But it was well earned by Kevin, who was not only as gay as a hummingbird in an ostrich feather factory, but who was so loving, so kind, so uplifting, so supportive, so strong in defending LGBT students and life and culture. And when we graduated, I was very sorry to part company with him. But over the years we kept in touch. And then, a few years before the cocktails arrived, I was living in Los Angeles, and he called me up one day and he said, I and my boyfriend are moving to Los Angeles. And he came out here, and we drove around and I showed him the sights. And it was lovely spending time with him. He'd cut his hair quite short in that sort of Chelsea clone look. He lived in New York. Well, I said, I'm actually coming to New York. I'm going to spend the summer on an ashram in upstate New York, and I'd love to see you before I go up. And he said that would be fabulous. So the very next May, as I was prepping to go to this ashram and drive across the country, which if you've never done, I highly recommend, either solo or with someone, drive yourself across the country and take a week or two to do it. You really get in touch with your own self and your own ability. It's marvelous for polishing your character and sense of self. And I arrived in New York, and I phoned up Kevin. But he wasn't there. He was in the hospital. And his roommate, Paul, who I knew and loved also from college, such a warm and kind and beautiful straight man. He told me where to call Kevin, and I called him and I said, Hey, Kay, what are you doing? Kevin told me that he was sick. He said he had back pains, and his chiropractor couldn't figure it out what it was, and so they ran some tests, and nothing turned out to be what it was until they checked his blood and found he had AIDS. And because he had AIDS, he had lymphoma in advanced stages. And everyone was hopeful, but it was a tough prognosis. I drove into New York City from this ashram. On the ashram, everyone volunteers and does work on the ashram to keep it running. And my volunteer work was to drive a van every week into New York City to pick up supplies like flatbread. And I was down in the city, and I called. I just had a moment, and I called to check in on Kevin. And Paul, his roommate, told me he had died just the day before. Immediately I chanted a 185 four-line verse Sanskrit prayer that is the sound form of the principle of going from darkness into light. And in my mind, I called Kevin. I said, Kevin, wherever you are, whatever you are, you come here and you pay attention to this, okay? I'm helping you on your way here. Listen, go to the highest. I wanted the best for him. Well, Paul told me when the memorial service was to be held at St. Mark's, way down in Manhattan, and I made sure that I would be there. And I drove down from the ashram. The very next day, I was scheduled to go into this course it lasted for an entire month, and you get up at 5 and you wear only white clothing and you meditate from 5 in the morning until 8 at night, and you never speak for an entire month, and you learn and you study and you learn the chakras and yoga and yogic philosophy and Kashmir Shavist philosophy. It was very in-depth and very rewarding. And that was to begin the next day after Kevin's service. So I was at Kevin's service, and there were a lot of friends from college. And it was bittersweet. And afterwards I was talking with the minister, this lovely, blonde, short-haired woman, about Kevin. And I noticed on her wrist she had a string of beads, what we call in Hinduism a mala. You use it a bit like a rosary. You say a mantra with every bead, and it keeps you on focus when you are focusing your mind on the mantra. And they were made out of rudraksha seeds, which is the seed of a blue fruit grown in India, and this seed is sacred to Shiva. And you see more of them now, but in 1991 you didn't see a lot of them. And I remarked on it, and I said, "Oh, do you practice meditation?" And she said, "Yes." And it turned out that we studied with the same guru on the same ashram. A little touch of synchronicity, reaffirming that love weaves through life, even in the saddest of moments. And the next day I started this month-long meditation course, and in my mind and in my heart, I called Kevin and I asked him to come and sit with me in my heart and to go through it with me. And I remember him now with profound love, but even more, with profound respect for his hard journey with a recalcitrant, straight, unaccepting family, for being wild in his sexuality and free, though there were consequences, which is not his fault, and for being, above all, dharmic as a gay man to other gay people, straight people, male and female people, and those in between. A knight in shining armor. And tonight I will go down to La Placita of Olvera Street here in Los Angeles, the oldest part of the city that remains. And with my sisters we'll build an altar, and we will all put things on the altar to remember someone or someones who have died. And on the altar I will place orange beads. Que amor, que corazón. Te amo, Kevin.